My twin sister called me, crying. She said, "Please, I can't do this anymore." Her voice was shaking, broken, weak, the kind of voice I had never heard from her before. Then she whispered something that changed everything. He controls everything. What I wear, who I talk to, how I think. There was a long silence. Then I said something that would destroy a man's life forever. "Then let's switch." My name is Naomi, and for 32 years, I lived a completely different life from my twin sister. She was soft, kind, obedient, the kind of woman people describe as perfect. Me? I was quiet, but I noticed everything, and I never forgot anything. We looked exactly the same. Same face, same voice, same body. But inside, we were nothing alike. My sister, Elise, married a man named Victor. To the world, he was everything a woman could want: successful, respected, charming. But inside that house, Victor didn't love her. He controlled her. He chose her clothes, checked her phone, controlled her money. Even her laughter had limits. For 12 years, she lived like that, silent, until the night she called me. That night, I made a decision, a dangerous one that couldn't be undone. We had one advantage, one thing that made this possible. We were twins, perfectly identical. So I told her, "Disappear, just for a while. I'll take your place." She hesitated. Of course she did. But pain makes people brave. 2 weeks later, she was gone, and I walked into her house as her. Victor didn't notice, not at first. That's the thing about control. It makes people blind. He was so used to obedience, he stopped paying attention. The first night, he gave me instructions. "Don't wear that. Don't go there. Don't speak like that." I smiled softly and said, "Or what?" That was the first crack. I didn't fight him. No, I studied him. Every habit, every weakness, every insecurity. Then I started changing things, slowly. I ignored his calls, changed routines, spoke less, but watched more. And something started happening. Victor began losing control. Men like Victor don't fear anger. They fear losing power. So I didn't attack him. I made him doubt himself. I'd say things like, "Did you always repeat yourself like that?" Or, "You've been forgetting things lately." Small words, but powerful. Day by day, he started questioning his own mind. While he was distracted, I moved quietly. I gained access to everything: his accounts, his contacts, his secrets. Victor wasn't just controlling, he was corrupt. Hidden money, illegal deals, lies built on lies. And I collected all of it, patiently, silently. One night, he grabbed my arm, too hard, the same way he used to grab her. But this time, he made a mistake. I looked him in the eyes and smiled. Not afraid, not weak, something darker. And in that moment, he knew something was wrong. A week later, I invited him to dinner. Candles, wine, silence. He sat across from me, uneasy. I leaned forward and whispered, "You've been controlling the wrong woman." His face changed, confusion, fear. Then I said, "I'm not Elise." Silence. "You broke her. Now, You answer to me. Everything collapsed after that. His accounts, frozen. His business, exposed. His reputation, destroyed. And the truth, already in the hands of people who don't forgive. Victor lost everything. Not all at once, but slowly, piece by piece, just like he did to her. Months later, Elise came back, stronger, free, alive again. He saw her and broke, begging, crying, but she just looked at him, calm, and said, "I finally learned silence." Then she walked away. Some people think revenge is loud, violent, immediate, but the most dangerous revenge is quiet, calculated, patient, because by the time they realize, it's already over. After that dinner, Victor didn't sleep. I could hear him walking around the house all night, opening doors, closing drawers, checking things that didn't need checking. That's when I knew it had begun. Not the revenge, the fear. Because men like Victor don't break when you attack them. They break when they realize they've lost control. And he had, completely. The next morning, he looked at me differently, not with authority, but with suspicion. And that was new. For 12 years, my sister never made him question anything. But I wasn't her. I didn't lower my eyes. I didn't rush to answer him. I didn't explain myself. And that silence was louder than anything he had ever known. You could feel it. The air in that house shifted. It wasn't his space anymore, not fully. Every time he spoke, there was hesitation. Every time I looked at him, there was doubt. And slowly, very slowly, Victor started shrinking. He tried to regain control. Of course he did. One evening, he blocked the door, looked at me with that same old authority, and said, "You've been acting strange." I didn't move, didn't blink. I just looked at him like he was nothing. Then I said, "Maybe you're just losing your grip." That hit him harder than any slap ever could, because deep down, he knew it was true. Victor started isolating himself. Calls became shorter, meetings canceled. He stopped inviting people over. He stopped going out. Because control needs an audience, and he was losing his. Meanwhile, I was doing the opposite. I opened the house. Light, music, movement, things my sister was never allowed to have, and every time he saw it, it unsettled him, because it reminded him that his rules were gone. The mind games deepen. I didn't rush anything. That's the mistake most people make. They want revenge fast, but real revenge takes time. So I planted more seeds, small ones. I'd move things slightly, keys, documents, personal items, just enough for him to notice, but not enough to prove. Then I'd say things like, "Are you sure you left it there?" Or, "You've been distracted lately." And every time he would hesitate, just a second. But that second was everything. Because doubt, once it enters your mind, never really leaves. While he was busy fighting his own thoughts, I kept digging. Deeper. His laptop, his emails, encrypted folders, hidden accounts. Victor wasn't just a controlling husband. He was dangerous. The kind of man who built his life on other people's silence. Illegal transfers, false partnerships, manipulated contracts, and I documented everything, every file, every transaction, every lie. Not for revenge, for destruction. One afternoon, his phone rang. He looked at the screen and froze. I noticed. Of course I did. He stepped outside to answer, but he didn't go far, and I heard enough. Give me more time. I'll fix it. No one knows. That was the moment I realized Victor wasn't just losing control at home. He was losing control everywhere. And I smiled, because now it was only a matter of time. That night, he tried something different. Softness. He sat next to me, closer than usual, and said, "You've changed." I didn't respond. He continued, "I don't know what's going on with you, but I want things to go back to normal." Normal. I almost laughed. But instead, I turned slowly, looked him in the eyes, and said, "Normal for who?" That question broke something inside him, because for the first time, he had no answer. Days passed, then weeks, and Victor was no longer the same man. His voice, softer, his movements careful, his confidence gone. And the house? It belonged to me now, not physically, but psychologically. And that's where power truly lives. The next morning, everything changed. Not slowly, not quietly, completely. Victor woke up to silence. No calls, no messages, no emails, nothing. At first, he didn't understand. He checked his phone again, then again. Still nothing. That's when the panic started. His bank called. Accounts restricted. Pending investigation. Unusual activity detected. His voice trembled. There must be a mistake. But there wasn't, because I made sure there wouldn't be. Then came the emails, one after another. Partnerships terminated, deals canceled, meetings withdrawn. People he once controlled were now walking away, and he couldn't stop it. By noon, his phone started ringing again. But this time, it wasn't allies. It was questions. Angry voices, demanding answers, threats. The kind of calls you can't ignore. And for the first time in his life, Victor had no control over the outcome. He walked into the living room, looking for me, desperate, confused, afraid. But I was already there, waiting, calm, unmoved. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time and whispered, "What did you do?" I didn't answer immediately. I let the silence sit, heavy, uncomfortable. Then I said, "I told you, you were controlling the wrong woman." He started shaking his head. No, you wouldn't." I stepped closer, slowly, deliberately, and placed a folder on the table. Inside it was everything. Every account, every transaction, every secret he thought was buried, exposed, documented, irrefutable. His hands trembled as he flipped through it, page after page, his entire life falling apart, right in front of him. He dropped the folder, looked at me, with something I had never seen before. Fear, real fear. Then he whispered, "Why?" And that question said everything, because even now, he didn't understand. So I answered him, not with anger, not with emotion, but with truth. You didn't just hurt her, you erased her. And now, you get to feel what that's like. That's when it hit him. Not the loss of money, not the loss of power, but the loss of control. Because for the first time, he couldn't fix it. He couldn't manipulate it. He couldn't escape it. Everything was already in motion. Authorities, investigations, people who were waiting for him to fall. And now, he had. He sat down slowly, like his body couldn't carry the weight anymore. Then he looked up at me with tears in his eyes and said, "I loved her." I didn't react, because love doesn't look like control. Love doesn't silence someone. Love doesn't break a person. So I said, "No, you owned her, and now you own nothing." I walked away after that, didn't look back, didn't need to, because his story was already over. Not because of me, but because of everything he had done. I didn't destroy him, I revealed him. And sometimes, that's worse. Months later, the house was empty, cold, silent. Just walls, holding memories that no longer mattered. That's when Elise came back. Not as the woman who left, but as someone new, stronger, free, alive again. She walked through the house slowly, taking it all in. Then she stopped, right in the middle of the living room, closed her eyes, and breathed, like she was finally home in herself. Victor saw her again, one last time, not as his wife, but as someone he no longer recognized. He tried to speak, tried to apologize, tried to explain, but she raised her hand gently and said, "You had 12 years. 12 years to choose differently." Then she looked at him one last time and said, "I finally learned silence, and you will finally understand it." Then she turned and walked away, forever. Some people think revenge is loud, explosive, immediate. But the most dangerous revenge is quiet, calculated, patient. Because by the time they realize what's happening, they've already lost everything.